Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Day in the Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. We'll talk about what we did today, and then we'll do the weekly recap at the end. So today, mostly continued working on preparing parts for the 57 Prairie Beige. As I mentioned earlier in the week, the long block came back from being rebuilt. We've got all the tins and everything already powder coated for it, so kind of the last dangling items on that one are to get the fuel pump, the carburetor, the distributor, and so on ready to assemble. So spent quite a bit of time today on those. Pretty happy with how they're coming out. So the owner did not actually have the correct carburetor. We've got a bunch of these in stock, so I went ahead and selected a nice one and started cleaning it up, and did a combination of cleaning it with gasoline and cleaning it with Chem Dip. The newer Chem Dip doesn't work quite as good as the old stuff from back in the day, but I suppose it's probably a little bit better environmentally. But overall, it does a pretty nice job. So again, I cleaned it up using gasoline and elbow grease, so to speak. First, got it pretty good, and then kind of final cleaning in Chem Dip just to get down in all the nooks and crannies. Likewise, I went ahead and Chem Dipped the fuel pump, which came out really nice. Previously, I had cleaned it again in gasoline and then sandblasted it, but we weren't really happy with how it was looking. The color was kind of non-uniform, especially in some of these areas you can see where there's corrosion, or where there was corrosion. The color was just very uneven, but after sitting for a couple hours in Chem Dip, it kind of evened up the colors of it. So looking much better now. Same for the top of it, looking much more uniform now as far as the color. The other thing was the distributor. The owner had a pretty nice correct distributor for this. Unfortunately, the badge was, somebody had removed the paint from the badge at some point. But it's a nice badge, it just doesn't have the correct black background with the silver letters and so on it. But I went ahead and wire brushed the rest of it after pulling the whole thing apart, and got the mechanism for it in a bag over there all cleaned up. But then, in addition to sort of the main bodies of these parts, spent a lot of time today with the wire wheel. This is what we use, nothing fancy, just a wire brush on a big motor, and pretty much wire brushed everything for the carb and the fuel pump and the distributor. Lots and lots of little pieces. It's very tedious work to go and wire brush all these parts, but the thing is that the more time you spend up front cleaning, wire brushing these things, removing rust, any contamination, the better they come out when you zinc plate them. So I'll probably go ahead and take all these parts over to zinc plating on Monday. Our guys are really good. They usually turn our parts around in a couple days, so hopefully about midweek or so we'll be able to get all these things assembled with freshly zinc plated parts. I ordered a rebuild kit for the carburetor and the fuel pump and the distributor, so maybe by midweek we'll have all these together. In the meantime, we can start putting all the tin work and so on the motor itself, and maybe by the end of the week or so we'll have a complete motor ready for that car. The other thing that I did today, just a pretty minor thing, was on the 69, went ahead and finally just put the front bumper on. So looking pretty good, and got the horn mounted and wired up. You're probably not going to be able to see it because it's dark under there, and I didn't think to bring my light with me, so you'll have to take my word for it. There's a horn under there all wired up. So just minor things, trying to keep project moving, get parts on it when we have them and when we have time. So that's pretty much it for today. Why don't we spend a few minutes going over the weekly recap. So going with the 59 first, just a couple small details that we finished up this week on this car, one of which was to put in the radio, super nice Motorola, and we made a custom bracket to mount it in the hood area in there so it's not flopping around. we put a deck lid spring on it. I think those were literally the last two things. Actually, I stuck the rear view mirror on it, just another very minor thing. But the car is done, and hopefully the owner can come get it next week and open up this spot for something else. On the 69, coming back to it for a minute, this week we put in all the rear windows, so the rear quarter windows and the rear window itself, and then lots and lots of progress on the EV stuff. So this black plastic panel went in, which is, you know, basically the firewall cover that everything essentially mounts to. We mounted the charging module here, so when you actually charge the car, this is what sends the juice out to the batteries, controls that. And then this one is essentially what supplies the charging voltage, so 14 or so volts to the 12 volt battery that runs the lights and so on. Got that installed. And then of course this big honking electric motor went in here. Again, I was mentioning yesterday how heavy this thing is. Unbelievable how heavy this thing is. Doesn't look like it would be, but I'm guessing it probably weighs very similar to an actual VW motor. Other things we did is went ahead and put the door latch mechanisms together. So doors latch now. We don't have the handles on the outside, and we still have to put the knobs on and a few other things like that, but the mechanisms are together and working really nice. We went ahead and zinc plated all those components, so they pretty much all look brand new. Let's see how nice all this stuff looks here. So yeah, pretty much like it's all new. And closes beautifully. So on the 66 double cab that came in this week, basically came in for an oil change, a tune-up, and it was running fairly poorly. Turned out that the ignition points had only about 1/1000th or so of clearance. As those of you that work on these things know, it's supposed to be 16,000, so not surprisingly it was running pretty poorly. So once we replaced those and set the points correctly and adjusted the timing and so on, thing runs beautifully now. There was also a couple exhaust leaks we took care of, changed the oil, adjust the valves, which incidentally all the valves were on the tight side. And that was pretty much it. On the 23 window this week, again, still waiting on parts. Hopefully Monday, he's saying he's gonna bring us a bunch of parts. So pretty much this week we pulled out the old wiring harness. You can see it under there, big pile of nasty old wiring. And we went ahead and pulled the new wiring harness in. So the main harness and then the dome light harness is in. You can see wire there and there, because we'll probably go ahead and put the headliner in the not too distant future. Got the main harness and the headlight harness is in, but I have nothing to connect them to, so they're just kind of dangling there. Nothing really to do till I have some parts. So hopefully those are arriving soon. We can actually work on this car more than the tiny bit that I was able to do so far. So I think that is it. Pretty productive week in the shop here, and trying to keep projects moving forward. Like I mentioned, the gray one, hopefully he'll be able to come get it next week. We're done with it. He's got to take it and install the motor in it, and he's got to take it back to his paint and body guy, have him fix some things. And hopefully we can build Jerry's motor here and get it installed and running in his car. And then we've got to do some touch-up work on a front fender for him as soon as we get paint and get him on his way. So there you go. That's it. Pretty good week in the shop. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully everyone has a good weekend, and we'll see you next week. Bye.